Every Elite Classic 2 series deserves to be cast, and that's what we're here to do. One and all, welcome back to the AW4 action. We have got an Abbasid versus Beasty series, English versus Chinese to kick us off with Beasty on the English. Now, this is interesting, actually, because we were just talking about the stats right now in the group stage so far, the Elite Classic 2. AW4 World actually calculated it, and by far, English is the worst performing Civ in the entire roster. They're down at like a 25% win rate with over 20 games played. Other side of it, Chinese are sitting kind of mid-pack, and this is quite interesting to me because coming to this tournament, I made a pretty bold statement that I thought English was going to be borderline S tier, especially when you consider the regularity of an Ottoman and Rus ban removing the true like S tier broken civs, right? Hasn't played out that way at all. And I was just saying live on stream, I think part of this is to do with the timings and the idea of longbows. I think the feudal longbow idea is what made me feel like English was going to be dominant in this this tournament format because of the maps they have access to. Things like Cliffside, Coastal Cliffs. Even this map, Bridges, I think is a really good map for kind of putting on the pressure of the longbows. Unfortunately, it just feels like the timings are off. And I'm not going to lie, after I've seen Byzantines with the win rate they've got, I just feel like it's no longer the Byzantines are the discount English. It's more like the English are the discount Byzantines. Let's see what Beasty can show us, though. In an English-Chinese matchup, it's a pretty good matchup for the English. You restrict a lot of options away from the Chinese. We are doing this on 2x speed in the early game because, let's be real, the Chinese are not going to do anything before Feudal Age. Beasty is not a Dark Age English rusher, so don't expect that either. The interesting thing in this matchup is that with the Lombos, you are able to block out a lot of opportunities for the Chinese, and ultimately this is a Civ that wants to be greedy, being played by a player who wants to be greedy. Actually, that's quite funny, because I remember recently when we were casting some Avali games, afterwards one of the pro players came by and they were like, has Avali finished his Divine DFP era? And I knew exactly what they meant. Avali used to be a fairly aggressive player. I'd say he was more oriented towards this idea of raiding type units like knights from the French and the Rus. But in more recent times, he's become a little bit of a greedy boy just sitting back looking for multi-TCs. In this matchup, that's not going to be given for free. With the Lombos moving in, I love this opening from Avali. He's prepping to get into the Horseman to try and shut this down. In fact, he's even adding in the archery range. So we have moved past the era of greedy boomy Avali. Now, he can still get into his greed, into his boom here, because admittedly, if he does secure this area with the Horseman, there is likely to be a Barbican drop on the ford here, which would secure the berries and the stone. And from there, he could even then think about dropping a TC on the south side of this deer behind him, which would stop Lombos from getting in altogether. In fact, Beasty has had to reset and pull away here. So he did scout early that he was up against the Horseman. And looks like the scout will be able to get away from this at least. And now is adding in the racks. Now, kind of interesting here, right? Like Beasty, you see him now setting up farms. This is quite a negative to have to do. It's not always a good thing to have to resort to. Realistically, in this situation, it's the right call, though. Avali forced him to go into farms instead of going onto the deer stacks because of the fact that he opened Horseman. If you played deer stacks, you'd have to set up outposts. And this is where you kind of realize there's an interesting kind of math to it. You could come out here and you could spend 50 on the mill, so that's going to be the same as over here. But then you're going to have to add in an outpost for every 5 villages. That's 100 wood. Alternatively, you can set up farms, permanent food at home, and for the cost of 100 wood, you can get 3 villages with permanent food source, which at this stage in the game is just as good. Actually, 9. It's better than deer. That's pretty desirable. You could argue you can get survival technique, sure, but like on the flip side, for a little bit more, you get horticulture and you just remain even further ahead. So I actually quite like this approach by Beasty. I mean, it's also going to buff his sheep gathering at home in the meantime. So a pretty nice choice coming out from the mad lad in the teal. On the other side of this, Avali is looking to get a bit crazy himself, though. He's scaling quite a lot of archers. So this is interesting because Beasty right now, he hasn't gone in for any sort of second TC. He hasn't played the pocket resources. He's just kind of taken that mid-ground of setting up extra farms. And now he's setting up a blacksmith as well. What kind of worries me is Avali, the comp that he's going for, because its archers are not Chuganu, this isn't that unit comp that you just scale non-stop, right? Because if you do, the longer you get into feudal age, let's say you get to like 50, 60, 70 of these archers, Beasty at that stage will probably have 3 farm clusters, if not 4. Definitely actually should have at least 4. That means he'd be able to pump Lombos and Men-at-Arms, and that's where you will wish you had Chuganu. So yeah, I don't want to see Avali doing too much more than this on the production front. I'd rather he just kind of plays a little bit of aggro here and either looks towards some sort of TC boom or looks towards a castle age timing. I'm guessing we're going to be looking at a Barbican drop into a TC boom. That's pretty standard kind of play here for the Chinese. Although now that I'm seeing him move a mill out on the deer. No, there's no way. Dude, you have to Barbican the north side. He won't be able to secure the Northern Island, unfortunately, but like you're probably going to secure the pass here, which will also get you the gold on the front. You could maybe stretch between like here. Yeah, okay. Wait, what? That's a very very limited Barbican. It doesn't really stop anything. You've got the wall coming up here, but like the north side, you're going to have to come out and wall this, and that might be dangerous. I think from Avali's perspective, he doesn't see anything here, so he's worried there might still be 1 or 2 lombos and a spear. So instead of pulling all his troops back, he wants to try and keep aggression, and that means he can't get a super desirable Barbican placement here. So archers in the meantime, I'll wrap around the back. Looks like Avali actually... Oh, you can tell he expected a TC build here. When he's walking around the back like this, he's scouting to check if his opponent was going for TC play. Looks like instead, though, it's going to be a stab at the backside. We'll be able to hit down a few of the gold workers. Oh, that was a misclick. Avali should have got 2 kills there. Ends up with only 1 in the end due to putting both of these villagers down to 5 HP. That's another thing that's a little bit surprising to me is the fact that Avali stopped short of having enough damage to ever kill anything. Remember, it's pretty basic math. You've got 8 times 5 here, so you do 40 damage. If he brought out 2 extra archers, which would have been totally fine here, he'd be able to kill villagers much more quickly. Like, the reality is, if you think about the difference that it's making, it's a 1.5 extra seconds to wait, so your opponent can easily just kind of knee-jerk react. And yeah, about the blacksmith tech, he actually went steeled arrow. The argument of like if he had the extra damage, I don't think it would have mattered because remember Beasty went for an early blacksmith because he was up against the Chinese, and I think undermesh is always going to be priority. So like I think you're just better off getting 2 extra archers for that early timing, and then you don't have to worry about the blacksmith detail. Instead, you can leave that until after you've teched up. Speaking of which, tech up's on the way. This is a very interesting build from Avali. It's not something I'd say we're used to seeing, is this kind of idea of just kind of playing no greed at all against the English. I understand why he's leaning into it, and I feel like we've seen a few more players doing this for the Chinese now. But the reality is, you know, you have to get quite a few palace guard together to dive the English sufficiently. You have to remember this is a civ that is one of the best defending civs in the game due to that aura plus the double TC fire. So there's going to be a delay in this, and the other thing you have to remember is Avali, although he's got Song online, because it's only 1 TC, getting things like the level 2 undermesh, which is quite expensive, and then affording all these palace guard, it's not something you ramp up into instantly. This is not like your typical Chinese build where 60 or 70 villagers in, all of a sudden they can just afford to pump out 20 palace guard in the first 2 minutes. Instead, you're going to be looking at maybe 8 palace guard in the first 2 minutes, if he's lucky. Because I think you'd have to consider the other techs alongside it. You already see that he's going into wedge rivets. All right, so let's get into the mindsets of the players here. Like Beasty, he's heard this tech up. What's his thought process now? His thought process is going to be, this is fine. I just need to start stockpiling resources. I can play condensed, and I'm not going to be too frightened. The choice that Beasty now has to make is, does he need a white tower to defend? I don't think so. I think this choice to position his army right next to Avali's base is going to force Avali to react to what he's doing. And it's going to buy all the necessary time to get away with a King's Palace build. Moving on the back. Blacksmith is working. Kind of interesting that BC doesn't try to burn this down, instead going for the villagers. And he will spill some blood in return. So that's a 1-to-1 worker exchange so far in this game. It's going to be a wrap around the back here. Avali. Tempting fate, my friend. You could have easily still lost a villager there. In fact, he might still. Okay, sick micro there. Beasty almost got 2 villagers there as one was injured. So he's going to be denying out the food. This is a problem because Avali, if you remember correctly, he set up his mill at home due to the fact he's against the English. He doesn't have great amounts of food in one location here. He's only got a few sheep left over. Beasty now pressuring on the village. I'm liking his approach here, right? Like, you know, Avali's one way of now trying to break you is to spam out enough palace guard. So this village over here just completely screws him over. Nasty B's also now coming out from Avali. Okay, so Beasty's probably going to lose his army now. But if he splits it up, he can still force some idle time and be annoying. The reason he's going to lose his army is this one nest of bees. Like, there's no way to get out, right? Like, you can't burn through a wall quick enough with 11 spearmen. Wait, Avali? Yeah, screw that Bambi in particular. Staggered formation coming out. Spearmen need to reach around in the nest of bees here. You just need to ignore the Palace Guard. Lombos are tickling away at these Palace Guard. And remember, behind this, Beasty is accruing all the resources he needs for a tech up. Great pinch set there. He just pinches around the backside. He even pushes the nest of bees off, so gets the kill. That's a really high-value kill as well. Remember, these nest of bees are not cheap. Think about it this way. He paid 600 resources. That could have been an extra 5 Palace Guard, right? So that's an insane grab by Beasty for what is essentially an army he wants to throw away anyway. Horsemen are at least arriving home. Lombos are definitely going to get thrown away, but I want you guys to think about what's happened here. Avali is not content with the state of what just occurred in the last 2 minutes. Avali is like, okay, I need to get out on the map. I need to get like a critical number of Palace Guard together, and then I need to push across. Now he can't. So you're seeing Avali's entire game plan shifting. Instead of it being about how do I now dive Beastie's base, it's how do I take advantage of the fact I have map control instead. And that's why you're seeing him queue up 3 of these monks. Monks that I don't think, yeah, they are being supervised. There you go. So coming out every 12 seconds. Really smart read here, because I think Avali fully understands that at this stage, Beastie has to be teching up. Like, that's the only reason he'd be in the back of your base at this point. So you have map control. You have an opportunity to make this a 5-relic game. Beastie now already prepping the crossbows. Remember, with the Council Hall, you basically have double production rate on the crossbows, so you can get the sufficient defenses together. Love the fact that they're adding in men-at-arms as well. This is just going to be your body blocker and choke points. Palace Guard cannot kill them quickly, right? And also, Palace Guard kind of struggle from a lack of extra ranged armor compared to the Palace Guard, the men-at-arms rather. So even with that extra +2, it pretty much just puts you at a standard men-at-arms level at this stage of the game. Avali splitting up. Interesting choice to split this wide. It seems he was expecting someone to be on the deer here. So this is quite an interesting approach by Beastie with the free farm cluster, by the way. He's very kind of weak from a scaling point perspective, but the power of the English is in this static defense, right? Like, you can already see Avali, he's kind of looking to probe, but it's difficult to get in and find a target. The only upside he has from him right now is the fact that Beastie has not opted for textiles, which is a little bit surprising. He's already taking some worker losses here, right? And like realistically, it's very hard to block out those type of raids from hitting consistently. So, you know, in this type of game, it definitely would have made a lot of sense, but I guess he wanted the extra gold for additional crossbow production. Speaking of which, this army's looking really good. I think Avali losing out on that one Nest of Bees really did hurt him. Imagine if a Nest of Bees was wheeling up to the base right now against men-at-arms and crossbows. A Beastie would have a very hard time fighting into it, right? But instead, he holds and turns, and all of a sudden, Avali now has to just start looking back for his greed, right? Adds in the second TC, doesn't keep up the aggression. Has at least got relics on the way, so that's a good sign. But because of the timing on this, it easily could end up being a case that he gets blocked out on free, considering that he's pulling back when he's still got mid-map relics to grab. So yeah, Beastie is going to be able to deny this one. And another one to the south side also might be grabbed, but we're already seeing 2 men-at-arms heading over there. These 2 men-at-arms should be capable of killing quick enough. Avali will have to trigger a wall lull, but he's going to need to bring something over to defend. Unless... Unless, of course, you just run the wrong way. Okay, so 2 relics home. Third one does seem feasible on the north side. The other 2 look like resources that Beastie could grab, though. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see a moss drop coming in next from Beastie. You're seeing for the time being all the wood is just going into extra farms. But with the scalability on his economy, he should easily be able to afford to get those monks out in the next minute, minute and a half. In the meantime, though, his priority is on just getting additional troops to fight with. And arms. They split up. They look to go for the Nest of Bees here. Crossbows pushing this back as well. Oh, wow. Nest of Bees actually attacking the men-at-arms because they want to try to stay alive permanently. It's going to be a snipe out, though. Beastie sends the crossbows in, starts targeting the villagers. Okay, that is something I didn't expect here. So he's essentially forfeiting the melee clash here, right? He's basically saying, I'm going to lose out to the defenders. But instead, he turns it into an eco advantage. So now Avali actually behind on raw villager count. Dude, that is such a weird way to go, but it's kind of crafty from Beasty, right? Like, he understood he wouldn't be able to win that fight, so why waste time on it? It's better to take away the economy, and that means the next wave that you're both scaling up, yours should be a bit stronger in comparison. No arms. A few of them are going to run through to the back farms. No tech stars here, so Abasid is going to lose 1 or 2. No armor clad yet. It's only now on the way from Beasty. It's kind of unfortunate, right? Like, you know, it would have been nice to have had in this Palace Guard clash, but realistically, until you have an answer to the Nest of Bees, armor-clad men-at-arms doesn't really do much. I think this is the point where Beasty now needs to say, okay, instead of going for the relics, maybe I just need to switch over into the Siege Workshop. Weirdly enough, actually, it's just adding in additional bioproduction. I guess Beasty's logic here is that he can outscale, maybe? Which I kind of get where he's coming from, right? Like, he just saw the farm clusters only 1 deep, and he has got plenty of his own, right? Like, second granary is now coming online for Abasid, but it's not full. Meanwhile, you're now up at 4 farm clusters. But I still feel like, you know, with how slow your comp is, Springles would make a lot of sense here, right? I guess from Beasty's mindset, it's like, I don't want to contest the Springle Nest of Bees issue, because if I go into Springles, he's going to go into Springles. And his have clocked out. People asking for tips how to improve. I say just choose pick a civ and commit to it. Like, that's what I always say is, like, you know, find a civ that fits with you and learn the game before you start learning all the civs. That's the best way to approach. If you're switching civ every single game, you're not going to learn anything because you haven't got a norm yet. The state of the game is always different, so you're not thinking about the basics to start with. Such as, yes, producing villagers constantly, making sure that you get a rough feel for age-up timings, understanding maps that allow you to naturally eco-boom over aggroing, and so on. Okay, so Fablop's trying to give me an alternative option here, saying, yo, I only play random. Yeah, but Fablop, you have the earliest GG out in a community game we've ever hosted, so I didn't want to gas here, but anyway, let's focus on the walls. Both players actually playing up here with the same exact idea. Well, not the exact same idea. There's a difference in the material we're applying here. So Beasty actually going for the stone wall. Meanwhile, Abasid has chosen to go for the wood wall on the other side. But both of them aiming for the same objective. Love the fact that Beasty sent a single men-at-arms up here, though. So he'll be able to deny this out, and Abasid will eventually end up losing 6 villages. Because there's no way out now. Now the Palisade's coming in. Oh, I actually really like this approach from Beasty. I've highlighted before that on this map, dude, are you kidding me? The deer kill. On this map, this Northern Island is critical into long-term games. If your game's going beyond 25, 30 minutes, you need to be looking towards that Northern Island. It is the difference between making or breaking your game. 16,000 gold, 2,400 stone. And if I had to put a rough number on it, I'd put like 13,000, 14,000 wood at least. It's a lot. There's a lot of wood up here, right? Like 150 in a tree. Let's say you've got, on average, what, 40 trees? So that's going to be 6,000. Yeah, you've probably got like 18k wood up here. It's insane how important this island is. Palace Guard marching in. Palace Guard marching out. This is what makes playing against the English so infuriating. It's these armor-clad men-at-arms you can't fight. It's the crossbow attack speed, which, you know, here's a kind of interesting way to think about this. With Network of Castles, the English crossbows basically become arbitraries with crossbow stirrups. That's kind of bonkers, right? And then if you go super late game, you get your hands on Network of Citadels, all of a sudden you have a better firing rate than arbitrary. You do admittedly have less range, less protection, sure, but in a DPS exchange with things in range, you will out-deep the arbitrary every day of the week. Long walls now coming up. So there's going to be a burn through here. So Beasty is now securing the Northern Island. Has got a 10+ eco lead now. So Abasid hemorrhaging more and more economy as the game goes on, right? This Palace Guard, this Man-at-Arms rather, has been chasing down these villages. I love the fact that Abasid has set up a little racks up here, though. As long as that doesn't get scouted, he might be able to find a bit of revenge. It's rounds. Okay, so Beasty has accepted that he can't actually beat the Nest of Bees with the Men-at-Arms play. What the hell is this economy, though? Check this. Berkshire already on the way. Now, this is interesting, right? Like, in this matchup, you do not want to be building Springalds as the English due to the Clock Tower Nest of Bees and Springalds. They're just too tanky. But teching ahead of Avali like this is impressive. It's going to allow him to get into shutter triggers. The other crazy part is, like, he's done this at the perfect time. His whole build makes so much sense now. This quadruple farm cluster, now make it 5, allowed him to reach an eco point where he's able to tech up ahead of the Chinese. That's not something easily done. So now we start getting into the idea of Imp Plus on both sides. If you're Avali, how content are you right now? Against the current comp, I imagine Avali is feeling very confident. It's just men-at-arms and crossbows, right? Avali's goal is to try and get into hand cannoneers against this. The thing that he has to solve for, and the thing he's trying to figure out now, is how do I get enough gold source? I did get 4 relics. That's great for a trickle. I have got taxation as well. But if we're eventually thinking hand cannoneers, that's a problem. Another issue for Avali now is this Northern Island. Not just because Beasty can just match the quantity of hand cannoneers, admittedly with less range. It's that alternatively, with all of this wood, he could just make it a mass Lombo volley play. But Beasty's thinking different. This is classic Beasty. Have you ever wondered why Beasty likes playing Horseman so much? Might it be that Horseman, 5/6 of the cost of it is from a permanent food source? A permanent resource, rather. It's the food, right? Like, wood is limited, gold is limited, but the food most definitely is not. As long as you have farms, you have it forever. So I think it's a big part of why you see Beasty always lean towards this. And it's why actually Beasty's always able to build up such huge reserves of resources, is because of that choice to go Horseman. Horseman does this where if you were spamming Pass Guard non-stop, you'd be just kind of like munching away at the gold, right? You wouldn't be able to secure an 8, 9, 10k gold reserve. So, pretty logical choice. Also, of course, it just has the added mobility factor on top of all the other nice things we just mentioned there. Imperial Pass now coming up, though, so Avali is in zoom mode. This is where I'd really like Beasty to set up a stone wall on this short side. It's just such a small investment for such a big gain here. It means you only have to guard this central area, which is very doable as English. When you have to spread a bit wider, that's where the game becomes quite frustrating. So, Network of Citadels is on the way. And remember what I said, this is like having double crossbow stirrups effect. It's incredibly powerful. Well, not quite double, right? Crossbow stirrups is 25%. The Network of Citadels is 40%, but it's pretty bloody close. Avali is actually going to secure the 5th relic. So, well played to him. We are now seeing Pyrotechnics queued up, so he's showing his intent here. Unfortunately, this mass Horseman play actually just might be the right call by Beasty. You get enough of these guys, you can shut down the gunner spam before it gets online. And remember, even with 5 relics, even with taxation, hand cannoneers is not something you can afford to keep losing. You need to find additional gold veins. Long walls planned by Beasty. I think it's very important that Avali doesn't let these go up. The problem right now is he just doesn't have an army big enough to scare this, right? Like, he can't stop this many men-at-arms and crossbows coming at him. So instead, Avali has to back away. And this is another negative of when you go into hand cannoneers. This comp takes a very long time to come online, 35 seconds to produce each one of these. Compare that on the other side, where Beasty's already been building these units throughout Castle Age. And now, up in Imperial, they don't take anywhere near as long, right? It's just not something you can contest. Beasty already tapping that gold. Like it's a keg and he's a frat boy. Dude, this is crazy. He's got, what, 36 villages, I think that is in total? 36 villages on gold is bonkers. He's going to drain this map and build up that reserve we talked about. This is very much kind of like your classic Beasty, right? And it's so smart at this stage in the game because it allows you to tick every single box you're seeing over here. Nothing's held back, right? Elite Army Tactics coming through, the Eco Tech upgrades at level 3. He can pretty much get everything because of the fact he has that much gold to work with. And, you know, some of this might look a little bit weird, and it's like, okay, why are you getting Spearman upgrades? You don't have a use for Spearmans yet. It's in case he needs to pivot. Because he has that much gold advantage, he can afford to just have extra backup techs prepped in case he runs into something. This is a very smart play by Beasty, because realistically, even with the dominance in terms of vision on the map he still doesn't see what Avali is doing. And I can guarantee you hand cannoneers are definitely worth the cost, especially for the Chinese. It's pyrotechnics. Pyrotechnics is insane. Remember, it turns what is a short-range unit into a sniper. 5.5 tower range. And the problem for Beasty with his comp is he doesn't realistically have a great answer to mass hand cannoneer right now. Biology Horseman is eventually going to be able to just drag it down. You're talking about like a quantity of resources that is more easily accessible for Beasty's comp, right? It's wood and food. On the other side, Avalene needs a lot of gold to get those hand cannoneer numbers up. If you can get up to 40 of them, that's when it starts to break the game. Then it forces Beasty to go longbows. But Beasty has correctly identified there's no reason to do that yet. His opponent doesn't actually have that type of resource bank to achieve that quantity. Beast should be able to push the crossbows away. Looks like the wall was intercepted, so not fully complete yet. Men-at-arms are now moving back. Wait, the Spirals have just... Wait, what? Beasty? Okay, the Spirals are dead. What? He's hiding the Horseman transition, isn't he? That's so weird, man. He didn't want to use the Horseman to block because, well, one, Palsguard will beat Horseman. Two, it would have revealed that he'd gone into Horseman. He doesn't want to run into Spears here. So he's willing to sacrifice a little bit of economy to get his Horseman in uncounted. That's bold. I don't know if that's like the right call here. Avalene should be able to find a significant amount of villager kills in this area, but so far, credit to him, man. Beasty's been on point with the units that he's seeking garrison with. He's only lost a small handful here, right? It's like 2 or 3 villagers going down. The rest are untouched. It's at least idle time, sure, but now Palsguard getting cleared up. The other side of this Horseman have ran in. And talk about a bargain. He finds the siege, he finds the range, he finds 0 melee here. Other than what, 5 Palace Guard? Insane grab for Beasty. Horseman not quite able to get that additional siege kill, but there's plenty that has died there. A great trade for Beasty, especially considering that in the end, I think he lost a grand total of 2 villagers to that drive-by. And it seems like he found more worker kills while he was killing the military over here. So right now, I'd say if I had to like pin someone winning, it's clearly Beasty. The eco bulk is a bit different, right? Like Avalene has an edge there, but in terms of the map control and also the skirmishes, as we just saw, I give the edge over to Beasty. What's most important here is that Northern Island, and so far I have not seen a solution for it. Avalene is now moving up, but the problem is with a Berkshire here, there's a lot of area that he can't deny. Right, this gold, this wood over here, the secondary wood line and the stone are all things that the Berkshire will protect. And a nice switch up now coming in from Beasty, dude. This is kind of wild. When was the last time you saw Imperial Age English transition knights? Like, you just don't do this, but it's pretty smart. Like, what you have to remember is in this game, Beasty has bank. He has plenty of gold, plenty of food. He has enclosures to allow you to contest the taxation of the Chinese. So he's not going to run out of gold. Instead, he has a kind of a gold rush right now, right? And funnily enough, like, what do you do with a gold rush? You build the rushy units, the ones that can move fast. Because the other thing is knights are pop efficient. They're like the most pop efficient thing you can build. They have more effective HP and more damage than any other option available to you. So a pretty crafty little choice here by Beasty. He's going to be able to start doing this until the spears come out. And we can see that Avalene was not prepped. He's now only adding in Dark Age spears. Bombards in the meantime are going to start sieging in. Imperial Pass going down is a big deal, actually. Right now, that makes up about 1/3 of the vision that Avalene has on the map, so this is a pretty lofty loss. No significant raids coming elsewhere from Avalene. He's just trying to mass troops the main fight, so Landmark goes down, and all of a sudden you start to feel a bit blind. Bombards can easily deal with the outposts, and that's going to start to deny vision and info to Avalene on what's happening on the north side, as well as what's coming next. Vision being stripped. Barbican is still behind the walls, though, so that'll last a bit longer. Bombards are trying to snipe through. Avalene is moving in position to deal with that, though. So Beasty, a little bit neglectful. He does leave his Bombards unguarded and doesn't even have siege work, so no chance to reclaim them. Instead, he's going to go north. Oh, no. Avalene, he didn't complete his Stonewall. I mean, this is a break-in, right? Knights going to be able to just wrap around, spread up. north and south and make sure that Avali doesn't have a quick response here. Now, Avali is at least as quick as you can get with infantry here, right? The Yuan Dynasty is going to be able to chase this down, but the thing is that the Palace Guard, this quantity, could just bog down the men-at-arms rival could just bog down the Palace Guard. And that's going to allow the Knights to hit the backside of the base. That's a huge idle time hit for Avali. Avali still has got 5k food in reserve, so he's not going to immediately burn up. But the problem right now is what these men-at-arms are doing straight after the pagodas. Oh, well played, man. This is annoying damage for Avali in a game where wood is a limiting factor. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's burning down, the farms as well. This is smart. He's just burning things that he knows Avali has to replace in a game where wood is his most handcuffed element, right? Like, he can tax for gold, he can use these relics to get gold, but wood is something that he lacks long-term access to. And his men-at-arms just don't die quick either is the other thing, right? Like, he's caught Avali before he's full into the hand cannoneer transition, so he can't quick kill these men-at-arms. It's like Knights will start to get cleared up by the spears. Beasty now moving forward for the attack speed aura, so he's starting to restrict the map a bit. Avali has shuffled out, though. He's got gold on the south side as well as the wood lines, so this is really important. Avali, without this life source, he'd be dead right now, right? He just wouldn't have any gold income. He's got 4k to work with, but he's still far from out of the woods yet. Remember, this is the game where your opponent has had a 16k gold advantage here, and enclosures allows you to contest what the taxmen can do. Wall's going up. Okay, well played. Avali is playing against a no ranged unit English rather. Unfortunately, the wall was broken in time there. Wait, that's actually a bigger problem. Okay, no, he's going to be fine. I say it's going to be fine. Like, realistically, the entire wall line is accessible. The problem here is, remember, Beasty is playing a no range unit English, which is just wild. Instead, he's going full melee. So unfortunately, he doesn't have a way of using that wall to hold the fight hostage. I'm expecting a Lombo transition soon, though. I feel like, against mass hand cannoneer, you're kind of going the hard way about it if you keep spamming horsemen. Hand cannoneers are going to get on the wall here, so we're going to snipe this down. Rams are looking to break through quick, though, and Beasty, if I'm not mistaken, is he just building them here? Where the hell did these come from? Oh, he's just sending them across, right? So he's got 10 plus rams on the way. Military Academy also now coming in. So Beasty, this is kind of wild, right? Like, he's restricting the map and he's winning fights right now away from home. What happens when you amplify that production rate? There's replacement units coming out by 33%. On average, that's going to save you an extra 6-7 seconds to get new troops out to the front line. He's going to break at both ends here. Meantime, wood's still being gathered up. Beasty, notice he hasn't gone for trade. This is an interesting thing about Coastal Cliffs. You can use the north side island to trade. He doesn't need to in this game. Like, in this game, he's playing English. There's no relevant reason that you need more than an enclosure's worth of gold. Like, right now, his gold income is kind of bonkers. He's still gathering on the front line with, what, a handful? Yeah, 11 villages. But most of this is just coming from enclosures. 40 farms worth. Yeah, impressed that he only needs 5 farm clusters, actually. Usually you need a little bit more than this, and I think he's putting the extra into wood right now. Like, if you look at the raw count, yeah, 61 people working wood. Bombar's being queued up as well. I still don't like that Beasty's not really addressing the hand cannoneer mass. This game feels like it requires it, because Avali is getting a puffed up chest moment here, right? It's kind of a one-offer. Like, once these hand cannoneers die, he doesn't really have a way of getting more. But for the time being, he has an army that Beasty realistically can't fight. And I feel like Beasty might be playing his classic style a bit too drastically here. Beasty's a player that likes to spread out and take the flanks to shut things down. In a game like this, your goal isn't to flank the farms. Your goal is to block out the mid-map resources. So quality over quantity should win out. That being said, it's quite the quantity of rams moving in. The amount of villages here, though, good God. 47 workers to clear these rams up. Still no siege works is a bit surprising from Beasty. Backside farm still being idled out. Avali, we have a reboom on the eco problem here. He has been constantly producing villages. It's just he's losing that many, guys. It's 77 worker kills now compared to 16. This is the thing that actually might make the difference, right? In conjunction with the fact that Avali's army is irreplaceable when it dies, It's the fact that even the crap units are going to be irreplaceable with the chip damage he's finding on his economy. Beasty continues to push through as well. Bombards break the wall again. 6 mangoes. Here we go. This is it. If half of these mangoes hit, Avali's army breaks and the game is over. That's what we're looking at right now. All that matters are these guys here. They will either win or lose this game. And they can do it quite swiftly one way. Just not so swiftly the other. Bombards. Oh, this is going to start getting clapped. Still no siege works. It's very interesting that BC doesn't care about siege works at all. I'm wondering what the thought process is there. I wouldn't be surprised if he just forgot about it. Like 20% more health on a bombard is quite a lot. Definitely makes a difference on a mangonel, especially against sprints. Little raid coming in here though. Horsemen. Plus the men-at-arms. They can clap this down really quickly. They have got the network of citadels, remember, so they actually have an insane attack speed every minute they're striking. So several villages going down. Avali, he only just recovered to 100, and all of a sudden he's down to double digits again. Bombards are actually having to stand ground up against this. Mangoes are going to reveal, but that should give Avali now time to reset. That is actually the perfect way to reveal the mangoes. He takes a hit on the pass guard and immediately backs up and waits for more anti-siege. Yeah, he's even going to rapidly produce them here. So Siege Workshop on the front line. Beasty, got to be very careful not to throw these mangoes away. For him as well, gold is becoming a problem, remember. We've drained all gold excess from the map. It's literally 800 here, and that is it. At that point, all gold is gone. The other problem is, like, he's been building men-at-arms, rather, right? Men-at-arms require gold, so it looks like he's going to be shifting away from that entirely. We are seeing siege works finally come through. We're seeing mass horsemen, which is sustainable still with the food and wood he has access to. And I wouldn't be surprised if now Beasty's going to add in like 3 more farm clusters. Yeah, he's already added another 2. We're probably going to have a third one on the way shortly. Wood doesn't require as much attention now, right? Like it's more about just having the food quantity to keep pumping horsemen like they are a throwaway unit, because that is their role in this game. They're simply existing to protect the siege. So what I'm saying is we're doing CGQ again. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, hello. We got a break-in. That's a lot of Palace Guard. Heading straight for the Berkshire. Berkshire doesn't actually have the hot oil here, so it shouldn't be an immediate kill. Might just be a difficult one to find altogether. Villagers are going to start getting clubbed, though. Well played, Avali. This is what he needed. Finds the north side. Beasty still has some reserves of wood to work with, but this is going to be a hit to his economy in both forms. Both the food, the wood, and actually then by extension with the enclosures, the gold as well. Boiling all definitely adding up, but when the pass guard are this tanky, they should be able to outlast this, surely. I mean, I'm saying that. We have to remember this is core architects, right? So it's 8.4k HP on a castle. I think it's going to be fine here. This is just wave number 1, though, and Avali, oh my god. Dude, how desperate do you want to look? This many people munching over like 3 pieces of wood says everything it needs to about the game right now for Avali. Sure, he got 5,000 wood in reserve, but he knows that whenever you're up against Beasty, it's not about how much resources you have now. It's about how much resource do you have 20 minutes from now. Looks like we are actually getting that longbow switch up we talked about. Beasty finally realizing that this is the correct way to address this. Like, you can't just keep trying to headbutt this fight against hand cannoneers. Longbow volley actually counters hand cannoneers pretty hard. Even their extra movement speed, like the difference in range is a problem for them. Villagers just trying to keep the Berkshire up, but it looks like it's not going to be good enough. So Beasty is going to end up losing control of the Northern Island. Push in the meantime. What, we got 5 mangoes? Oh my god, the horseman! Avali completely out of position here. Now, keep in mind he does have a lot of food in reserve, but considering he's spamming Palace Guard, this is expensive. An expensive loss. He needs to actually find some additional damage. Problem is, he's also just ran into a keep on the north side, so the villagers are going to be denied the limited wood remaining up here. Waves continue to dive in. Hand cannoneers are finally in position to react to this. 33 of them, in fact, but the horsemen have definitely done damage. Both players now taking heavy licks and heavy wounds. 91 eco to 73. This is going to take a long time to reboot for Avali, though, and you know, although he's got those reserves that we keep speaking of, he still has some big problems here. His army relies on Palace Guard flooding to deal with the siege, and that's difficult to find. It looks like there has been a pullback here. Beasty, I think he lost the mangonels and then got them home. Or lost the springs rather and got the mangoes home. So he's going to actually have the advantage in siege, and that's a problem because a few too many of these mangoes, and that's going to be a GG. So Abbey now needs to find a wide battlefield, right? Like, Abbey knows about the mass mangoes. He's now thinking, okay, I can't fight in my own choke points. I can't fight in my buildings. I can't fight in his buildings. I need to fight somewhere like here, where there's enough spread that I can wrap left and right and come around the back on the mangoes. Abbey. Oh god, dude, that is half of his economy right now. Palscard are at least going to clear this up. I'm kind of chuckling because I feel like that's the moot detail. The fact that you're not getting any eco now is a problem. Abbey's comp is becoming very one-dimensional. And the crazy part is actually, like, this hand cannon Beasty's adding in is a pretty damn good answer with the choke points as well. I think like this choice to still keep men-at-arms is really smart from Beasty. If Beasty keeps like 20 or 30 men-at-arms and just holds small choke points, they're very tanky. They're tanky enough that mangoes will be a problem. So I want to see Abbey consider maybe still going into Springolds. It seems he's hesitant though, and I can't blame him considering the gold and wood income now has pretty much grinded to a halt. God damn, these longbows. Yeah, they Gatling gun, guys. Arrow volley is kind of nutty. Reducing the attack speed down by 1 second, basically taking you down to like 0.29 seconds to attack. Pretty insane. And remember, this isn't just going to address Palscard fairly well because your base damage is decent. It's also the perfect counter against hand cannoneers. Palscard just actually splitting up like this is costing him dearly. He's not got an army that's just ready to take a main fight, right? Like, he's just got these small pocketed groups. In fact, the one big group of Palscard he's got are looking in all the wrong places right now. I'm struggling to see a way out of the hole for Abbey. It's kind of wild when you say that of someone who has a military advantage with a hand cannoneer advantage, but the problem I'm seeing right now is Abbey has to try and now exhaust himself claiming this north side through the Berkshire and the keep again. On top of that, this is with limited resources overall, and this is also in a situation where the Lombos are now here to answer your true premium unit. It's like, you're pretty much stuck in a scenario where Palscard need to hit, and they need to hit the economy. If they're taking fights, they're not striking at what's keeping Beasty alive, right? Like, you can see how closely he's playing this. His gold income is abysmal in this game, but it's a trickle that will keep existing due to the fact the farms are cozy at home. And yes, 5 relics offsets a lot, but once again, remember, like, the gold is basically going to be put into Palscard on one side and men-at-arms on the other. The difference in this extra gold is the hand cannoneers, but the hand cannoneers are worthless against Lombos. They get destroyed by them. Palscard, I'm just going to start taking control of the Northern Ireland again. Classic English people fighting over Northern Ireland. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. Woodline's been shipped pretty hard by Beasty though, right? He's got like basically half the wood on this island he's claimed so far. He claimed all the gold as well. And oh, we got a break in. Beasty on his way home. This could be a problem. Abbey, for the first time, is going to be able to get a significant hit in. These earlier raids with the Palscard, there was only a handful that made it to the farms, but this is full Sparta. Well, not quite. It's a 6th of Sparta. 50 Palscard make their way into the back. What damage can he do, though? Beasty, last time this happened, if you remember, he had fantastic micro to mitigate any losses. I think in Grand Tour, he lost about 3 or 4 workers. This time, it looks like Abbey can't find what he's looking for, so he simply attacks the houses. Meanwhile, oh no. Oh no! Oh yeah! We're in! Abbey, that's almost half his economy stuck on an island. And look at the way he split this beast. He goes both sides of the wall to guarantee there's no escaping this. I mean, Abbey, he could hide it on the wall, but what does that do? Nothing for you. That's just idle eco at the end of the day. It just shows you how desperate he is for that wood. His economy is still good. This is the crazy thing. Like, from an eco perspective, Abbey is outplaying Beasty. But what's also happening is he's running out of ways of stockpiling a reserve, right? So these trades need to be very favorable for Abbey. Like, bad trades equal 0 resources left over now. Villagers are going to keep on hiding for the time being. Palace Guard basically have just ran through the base to run out the other side. Okay, it's kind of weird. He just couldn't find the economy. And Beasty's so on point, and now Avali. Look at the difference we're seeing in that village count, 98 to 66. Oh no, the horsemen have found them here as well. Wait, what? So instead of going on the wall and being safe, the villagers are now trapped here to die. Tell me you didn't pass 4th grade without showing me... show me you didn't pass 4th grade without telling me you didn't pass 4th grade. I think that's what those villagers have done for us. So horsemen are going to be able to take them down. That's going to be Avali under 50 economy. And he stopped producing. So this tells us that Avali, he's saying, okay, this can't go on. I now see what's happened on the map. It's kind of irreversible. I need to build an army that is so big that it doesn't have to fear your aura. It doesn't have to fear your production. It will just break you. So this is going to be Avali going up to 150 plus pop. He's adding in Fire Lancers, which I really don't like, because this is going to pretty much give you one swing, and if it's a miss, it's over. The real reason why I hate Fire Lancers here is he can't get out without being seen. This is not like one of those games where there's a sneak route to the enemy base. Literally, the moment you walk out of your main, the Fire Lancers are going to be seen. And that's going to give Beasty ample time to body block if it's north side on the bridge, or block wherever you try to break through on the wall. Asgard getting thrown away. Avali. That's everything. The whole kit and caboodle. All of his resources now going into this play. Still, he needs to break a wall, man. Like, he's got multiple bombards coming, but once again, this is something that will get scouted early. It will get reacted to. His best move would be north side, but there's still a stone wall up here, and if he pulls bombards to blow this up, it's going to signal to Beasty what's happening. Unfortunately, doesn't have much of a choice, really. All right, guys. Avali, can you do this? Twos, if Avali's Fire Lancers are going to come in clutch and end this. Because this is a pretty awkward way to have to make this commitment, right? Like, typically when we see Fire Lancers work, it's when all landmarks you have to kill is on one screen. That's not the case here. This Berkshire on the north side that Beasty plopped to secure that island means one way or the other, he's going to get a lot of time to react and get an army in place to protect. So Avali, crafty bugger that he is, check what he's doing instead. He sends the bombards up to deal with the Berkshire to hide his play. This is really smart, actually. I want to give props to Avali. Like, if there's one way this might work, this is the way. The bombards can deal with the Berkshire, and Beasty's not going to be suspicious of it, right? Like, he's going to see hand cannoneers up here. It's a tiny bit suspicious because you don't see any Palace Guard. But there's hand cannoneers here to defend, right? So at this point, you're like, oh, Avali's actually invested a very expensive army. And here we go. Berkshire goes down, and the flood comes in. Fire Lancer's on the way. Beasty, he needs to hold this. Just stand on this choke point right here. In fact, what would be super sick, and in fact, he's doing it. Demos are on the way. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. This is it. And Avali, no way! The body blocks mean he can't go through. He pulls away from it. Beasty is overextending though. He needs to get back on that choke point. Whoa, boy, whoa! Don't let him through. What is this mess? Oh my god, Avali, he can't even get out now. Demo's on the way. A demo that can easily detonate. He's holding it hostage right on the edge. Avali, he has no choice. It's do or die, but double demo is just going to instantly delete this bridge. So here we go, Avali. Bombard snipes one. Demo hits that up. 15 HP is about to die. 11 HP left. Are you kidding me? Demos are in. Half the Fire Lancers don't make it. And that means this is not going to be enough. Avali, down to 37 economy, will not be able to get the landmark snipe victory. Oh my god. And on the other side of it, Beasty sends the Lombos into the base. This is game. This is GG. Beasty, with 18,000 food in reserve, he can afford to build a defensive army to clean this up. The Fire Lancers will not even get through the second landmark. I cannot believe this, dude. This is why I love bridges. Tell me what other map you would get that on. I can't believe how close he made that as well. Avali almost saved the day for himself and kept it open, the bombards. Unfortunately, due to the attack speed, he overkilled. He shot the bombards into all of them into one demo ship, which left a bit of wiggle room for one to sneak in, right? That was the difference maker there. Sick move, and he also detonates the other bridge. Meaning now, Avali, half of his remaining population is stuck on an island with nothing to do. And he has no villagers to repair with either. This is it. Game one. And guys, this is just game one. Beasty is going to clutch it up. Avali almost getting through what would have been a sick Fire Lancer turnaround. Remember, this Berkshire was irreparable at this stage. The hand cannon is camping it, guaranteed it. I do wonder if he needed to pull half these guys to the riverside. That might have been the difference to break through. But instead, now, Beasty, this is undeniable. He kept his eco alive. Avali went for that classic all-in Fire Lancer maneuver, and it failed to deliver. I do love his execution, though. I want to give a lot of credit to Avali. This game may have been almost an hour long, but I don't put the blame on him. I think Beasty just as much took it there. If anything, we actually saw some early plays by Avali where he tried to play the aggressive player I've come to love in the past. So, shows some promise here, right? Like, although the first is going to be a loss, I think what we're seeing here is a more well-rounded Avali that can play early or late game. Has me excited for what we're going to get in the second game, because I've got a feeling with English and Chinese being removed respectively, we've got some more aggressive civs left over, so less likely we should see an hour-long game. Let us be a lesson to all that come to bridges. If you want to win this map, by the way, I just want to also point out, Avali is losing on his own creation. Let's not forget that. Avali created this map. If you want to win on bridges, and your game plan goes beyond 20 minutes, this island should be central to your plans. It may not be central on the map, but it's most definitely central to the outcome of the game. That's why Beasty looked so dominant. That's why he was able to keep the lead, even when things looked like they were getting shaky for moments there. Avali, he's actually going to go for one last hurrah, so he's pulling the villagers for a quick repair on the bridge. Demo ships cannot come out. Bombards did snipe out of the docks. Extra docks are coming up from Beasty, though. He's not going to be quick enough. These guys will definitely get in. Wait. Doesn't Beasty have to delete the army here? I think he does. Yeah, he just deleted some stuff. So he's got more troops on the way. Spin coming out. Villagers, they are being pulled for the repair. This is the dying cry of Avali in this game. Fire Lancers will be able to get through the council hall. TC might also be doable. It's a little bit awkward in this choke point to try and get through. But realistically, surely not. 42 Fire Lancers. He has got the Spirit Way, which is making this look a lot closer. But I actually think the thing that saved Beasty in this game should be the Core Architects. Reboldequin comes out on the back. Oh, do it. Please, please, please. Wait, what? Okay, that was worthless. Repairs coming in. Beasty, wait. Has he made a mistake here? He's fine. There's only a few Fire Lancers left over. Unfortunately, Avali got tracked. If these Palace Guard were not stuck here, we might be actually looking at a GG, but Beasty is able to hold on. Avali, the last hurrah is going to be a flop. Props to him for the attempt, though. I love that he actually went for one more punch where a lot of people would have called GG. There's a thin margin of a thin opportunity here, but now with the Bombards being pushed away, the King's Power still on half HP. I don't see how he does this. He's going to try for a snipe, but the repair crew, Avali, can he actually do it? You need like 5 hits here, at least. Actually, a lot more than that. It's going to be a fail. Avali will hang in there until the very last moment. Props to him for actually almost making this look like a dub still, even in the stare down of defeat. But in the end, it is going to be Beasty opening this series with a win. Yeah, well played by Avali. I think, like, realistically, that was always bound to fail. Like, you know, if it felt like I wasn't hyping up Avali's chances of doing it, his chances of those Bombards, like, ending the game were more reliant on Beasty not paying attention. And Beasty, of course, was clearly switched on there. It would have been a shocker if that actually turned into a victory moment. So let me go ahead and update the score. Beasty has got 1 on the board. We now look forward to our second game, where I think... Was it Gorge they're going to? You could have reasonably created more suspense at the end. Maybe. I don't think... Was the TC actually rubbled? Is that like a graphical bug that it comes back on fire? I think the reason I wasn't giving suspense is because the TC was still alive, as far as I could tell. I should have been looking at the little marker on the top side. But like, if you looked at it, it was on fire. And if it's on fire, it's still alive, right? So that was my issue. Is like, I'm seeing that having 3 bombards worth of hits, and he's ran out of units. So... Game 1 done. Game 2 is going to be a Jeanne D'Arc Malian game. Yeah, I feel like this is the one downside of like casting replays is even when I don't mean to, I'm going to, like, especially when I go to grab the draft, I'm going to glance a look at the score, and I don't want it to affect like my outcome, but it is admittedly going to affect my outcome. This is why like I like casting games blind. I'm not one of those casters that wants to know the result. Like, I'd rather, like, you know, and that can be a negative. It means I spend more hours searching for good gameplay than most people who make this type of content do, because other people kind of know the outcome. But I love it when I don't know the outcome, because I can actually give a genuine reaction. I could have, yeah, I probably could have, I don't know. I don't think, it's hard to hype it up when you definitely know the outcome, right? And I don't, like, that's when you are technically fake hyping. Yeah, I know. It's a weird one. I wish the AoE 4 would make my time easier by just literally having a no spoiler mode for match history. I don't know why 3 years in we still don't have that. Anyway, let's get ready for the second game. All right, Beasty leading. We head into our second here. Averly pulling out Jeanne D'Arc and Beasty with the Malians. Now, this is a decent matchup, actually. I think we've been seeing quite a lot of Jeanne D'Arc wins at the moment, and I got to say, Gorge is a good map for it. So if there was a way that Averly could get us to a game 3, I think he's drafted correctly for this. The alternative picks going into Gorge were Byzantines and the Japanese, right? On the flip side, Beasty's options outside this were the Order of the Dragon and the Delhi. I guess he's saving Delhi for the third map. Order of the Dented could have worked, but against Jeanne D'Arc, we mentioned this already, it's this weird kind of double-edged sword where it's either really, really good or really, really bad, right? It's kind of that funky thing where when you're winning fights, you seem unstoppable, but the moment you start losing them as Order of the Dragon, the game is already over because of how much XP you give over. So I think Beasty didn't want to have that kind of gamba moment. Also could be that he wanted to save Order of the Dented for later on the draft. Like, considering his opponent has got Byzantines and Japanese left over, I actually don't mind the idea of Order of the Dragon up against the Japanese. I think you can actually reach a surge point early enough that you block out any sort of spicy, fast castle Japanese worries. So instead, John, on this map, I'm wondering which way Averly wants to play this. I have seen a few builds. One that I'm a really big fan of is postured aggression into 2CC builds. I think they're really good for Jeanne right now. We saw a few replays. I think there was a game on Coastal Cliffs, actually, between, I think it might have been Lucifron and Zertan, where he started to feign aggression, forced extra defenses out of the Malian player, and then went for 2TC. I'm a really big fan of this type of build. I think Jeanne plays it very well. And because of this matchup, inherently you get map control. What better way to use that map control than with a loose second TC? So let's hit the fast forward. Beasty, what are we going to be looking towards here? I'm wondering if you try to just actually posture some aggression or if you just try to be as naked as possible. Like, obviously you're going to have to build some Donzo to defend with, but... And you probably want at least one archery range with a few jabs coming out. But realistically, I don't think you're going to get a game where he comes out of his base, right? Like, the way that I view this matchup is typically attack, defend. That's why a lot of Jeanne players are now switched into Boom. Because in an attack and defend situation, like, Jeanne's difficulty comes when she has to dive the enemy base. She's great at playing mid-map, but if your opponent doesn't want to play mid-map, that's where the game becomes a bit sucky. Check what the scout haul was in the end. Beasty getting 14. 9 on the other side for Averly, so it looks like he actually missed out. He only done partial rotation on the east side and then came back for the left. Big mistake there. I think Averly's going for that best of both worlds, right? Where it's like, you do it, I do it, we both get 50% sheep. But I've noticed a lot of the high-level players, like BC, Lucifron, Vortex, they still just do this dart down one side. They just gamble it. They don't mess around. They don't give you this opportunity to do a 50-50 split. And funnily enough, because they've been going to these players that kind of blink and do the opposite, they're more often than not been winning out. You can already see 17 now compared to only 9 sheep. So Avali, less to work with at home. Puts more pressure on this 2TC play, and it looks like that's exactly what it's going to be. Avali, onto the stone, has gone for the hunter form. A little bit surprising here. Against javelins, especially, it feels really weird. I like hunter form when you're in a matchup where you don't have a hard counter in feudal age, and you know you're going to castle age, because that's where Jeanne feels really good. Jeanne in matchups where you know you're going to be up against siege as well is where hunter form feels good. I'm a little bit skeptical about this choice just because it's against javelin spamming civs, so you don't really have any potential to threaten early game. Now, this is a big problem, because realistically, if Beasty sees that you have no way of threatening in the early game, his choice is going to be going into greed. It's going to be to add in an extra mill and add in the branches quicker, because he knows you have no way of diving his base whatsoever. Yeah, Avali, dude, he didn't even build the first knight, which is, I think that's neglectful. That's kind of a mistake. I mean, realistically, yeah, Beasty has already built a few Donzos, but you can force more pressure here, right? Like, when your opponent comes to the second pit mine, you could have been blocking him out here. It kind of feels like a missed trick for Avali. I think in this situation, as long as Beasty doesn't now add an archery range, he's ahead. That's how I would gauge this. Like, we're probably going to get a second mill coming in shortly for Beasty, because he's reaching a point where Ezekiel can afford it. And that's a problem, because Avali, that means he hasn't actually done anything, right? Like, you can actually see he's done so little that Beasty has taken his Donzos across the enemy guard. Wow, and that actually hurts for Avali, right? Like, he hasn't got any of the eco-techs whatsoever outside of wheelbarrow, right? So, obviously no horticulture this early on, but no survival techniques when you're on deer. Feels really bad. No gold to get the initial knights out. This is really well played aggression by Beasty. Avali has at least now got some opportunity to get some XP, but realistically, it kind of feels moot or irrelevant to get 18 XP if, in return, you're giving your opponent a free castle age. Second mill in. Archery range, funnily enough, is being laid in, but that makes sense when you see your opponent actually has gone ahead for an archery range. Just guarantees that he can't counterattack, right? And we're now seeing Avali get very aggressive in his focus. Second stable, second archery range coming in. Doesn't really have the potency out of this right now, though. This is one of those things about when you do this type of build, but you're not consecrating and sending troops out straight away. You can't get as much bang for buck, if that makes sense. Like, you know, if... Let's say you go to 20 military versus my build where I consecrated and kept pumping horsemen straight away, go to 20 military. I fundamentally spent less to get there than you have, right? Like, that's a very big difference to think about, especially when you consider that Avali is just pumping horsemen, which is really surprising here. Donzo's just going to keep getting poked away at. Avali not able to get any XP so far. Villagers now can start being targeted, though. Beasty hasn't even added in a javelin yet. Okay, there we go. He's waiting for confirmation that archers are being produced. So, pretty smart choice here. Sure, you can say it makes you a bit weaker with the Donzo engagement, but now you have a guaranteed reason to invest in javs. And in the meantime, you've got additional ranches in, right? We're now 4 ranches full, 5th one now filling out. Means that Avali's got, like, what, 2 minutes to do damage? And then it's too late. Also, another problem is, although he's denying gold over here, keep in mind that fat pit mine on the east side is giving a lot of value. Beasty is going to actually keep playing in the sage. Okay, extra archery range going down. Blacksmith's now on the way of Undermesh. Other side of this, Avali yet to add in a blacksmith, though. And I feel like this is one of the big cardinal sins I've still been seeing a lot when I watch Jeanne D'Arc players, is their timing seems to be off. Like, blacksmiths, I think blacksmiths for a very long time has always been a timing issue with French. It took them ages to figure out, but with Jeanne, it feels like a new beast because of the different options you get, right? Like, it almost feels like you're always pushing for extra quantity over quality here, but it's going to come at a heavy cost now. Hit mine removed, so that's 102 less gold coming in each minute. That is going to slow down the javelin production, but keep in mind, he can always pull more villagers to the east side. Realistically, the other thing you do is you just come back out onto the gold the moment he walks away, because he left you with a mining camp. He didn't even take that away. Avali still very much all in here, so Avali's mentality right now, what Avali's thinking is, if I just keep constricting the map and keep him off the golds now, I win the game. Because if he has no gold, he can't even build jabs. And I'm building a lot of horsemen, so I can essentially just headbutt fights. If I was building knights right now, I'd have half the count of knights, and that means that he has the right number of donzos to body block me, right? But with this many horsemen, I can take out the limited jabs, and then archers win the game. Horsemen go over on the other pit mines, so that's being taken out now. Unfortunately, that kind of defeats the whole logic of his plan here, because it means that he's fighting jabs into archers. I don't know if I like what Avali chose there. Compared to, say, getting a blacksmith, get siege engineering, and then just build a ram to take this out, I feel like he took the most lopsided approach. That means he might not even get rid of the pit mine. Avali will be able to start step this off. So pit mine's going to go down. It's going to return a little bit more gold for Beasty. However, now your army is split. Donzos are mirroring on the right side, and Javelins are mirroring on the left. So, realistically, what you've done right now is you've given Beasty both of the wins in terms of positions here for his armies. Donzo's jabs. Poking and prodding. Avali, what is the game strategy now? Like, when you split like this, it's kind of like you're tunnel visioning the gold now, right? Realistically, Beasty, he has been idled out at 5 ranches deep, but now, with as many jabs and donzos, he can just get back to work. Like, you can't keep splitting this now. If Avali wants to win this, he needs to find where the gold gathering's happening and then just block it out with the entire army. He's actually going to shift east side. Beasty immediately takes advantage of this, moves out onto the gold. It's active gathering underway. Donzos will scout this out early. Now, Beasty did bring one villager out here, but realistically, losing one villager is not going to hurt you. Also, another problem here. Avali has been missing production, surely. We've been how many minutes with 2 TC now? He only has a 4 eco lead. The numbers don't add up, so I think Avali has been missing production on the TC. Oh, yeah. That's a problem, dude. I can't believe that. I was looking at this thinking something's missing for Avali. Blacksmiths, why are they so late? This is the only thing that makes sense, right? Like, I'm pretty sure you should be more than 5 villages ahead. He rushed his second TC. He got it up at, like, what was it, 7.5, 8 minutes? So that extra TC, this deep in the game, that should have given you an extra, like, what, 12 villages? Something went wrong here. Avali now being pushed away as well. So pit mine mostly denied. I mean, the villager's going to come out to tap, finish that off, and repair it up. Other one is still fully operational. I think this is where Beasty's in cruise mode. And Avali, dude, I can't believe this, man. I feel like this is too late now. Siege Engineering needed to be there like 2 minutes ago. That would have given him a really firm timing here. But now this game is out of your hands, right? Like, you've got 20 horsemen, sure, but versus 20 donzos? You don't have archers with increased attack speed, so you can't kill those donzos quicker. And you don't, like, you know, this is kind of interesting thing, right? Like, this kind of comp can work really well for the Delhi, even in this matchup, because the Ghazi are more tanky, and their archers attack quicker. You're not that Civ. You can see the confidence Beasty's playing with. The fact that he comes out of his base like this kind of says everything about the state of the game. Avali needs to make it or break it. He's at least getting some XP now on John, but it's coming at a price, of course. Final Ranch has now been added in. John is going to get sniped down, so she's gone. And yeah, these horsemen are just not really doing enough for me. I'm underwhelmed by their impact in these fights. You can see the moment that Avali loses Jean, he doesn't even want to fight anymore. And this is a problem because now Beasty can just consider a tech up. He's moved villagers out into the deer. He's got survival techniques coming in. The gold has been accrued. And now he's got all these ranches adding in the passive food as well. So Fulani will be activated in the next 2 minutes maximum. And that's a problem for Avali because he hasn't really built an army that scales. Horseman archers is the last thing that you want to be upgrading and relying on as Jeanne D'Arc here. They aren't units that have great effective HP. They aren't units that counter what your opponent's going to be doing next. Like, I'm pretty sure Beasty's going to, split? He's got 12 on the wood right now. That should be good enough. We're probably going to see him adding in about 2 to 3 stables while he's teching up. And that's when you switch over to sofas. Sofas just win this game. I'm wondering, like, what happened? Like, we know what happened, that he missed villager production. I think Avali just kind of, like, forgot about it. And has now realized it, right? Because I think he's been a little bit better at keeping constant production now. It's one of those awkward things where when you're threading the needle, you need every little bit of food going into active military production to make this timing work. So it's very easy to kind of lose track of the TC situation. It's definitely cost him here. Raid south side is at least going to keep the walls open temporarily, but Beasty is now about to pull the trigger, so we are looking at the Fulani. Avali, in the meantime, is about to lose some economy. Well, this is not how this moment is meant to be going, but welcome to what happens when you lose control of that death grip on the enemy base. 60 military now versus 48, and keep in mind, this is an army that Beasty actively wants to upgrade. He's not just looking to throw it away here. He knows he's that much stronger against this mass horseman, right? Like, this is not 20 knights plus 30 archers. This is 20-ish horsemen versus, what, 34 Donzo now? I mean, they touch you, you die, right? Like, even this many. 15 Donzos in this fight could do significant damage. Jabs. Emile is looking to tug out Jeanne here. She's gone. No XP for her. Donzo's now going to move in. That's going to push away the horseman. And while this is happening in one corner, in the opposite, the Fulani's coming out. Even this fight isn't a bad trade for him. Avali loses more out of this. Donzos mostly have been mocked up now. Horseman can maybe make it better on the tail end. The second wave is now coming in. Level 3 Jeanne has at least been reached, but it's feeling a little bit too late here. Avali still needs to make a mass farm transition. Tail end of the fight is going to be much better. With the leftover archers and the horsemen, he's able to mop this up. So he at least has a military lead right now, but now he has a huge age disadvantage. Eco lead has also been shrunk. Extra villages lost for Avali. And I love this. Beasty immediately moves in towards the stables that have been consecrated. That's good value taken away, remember. That's the discounts. So one of those removed. That's less horseman pump coming. And now if you're Avali, you have to go. Like, I actually don't think you can wait for Castle Age. If you wait for Castle Age here, you're kind of dead. You need to get some damage done right now. He has stockpiled 1,500 wood to put into farms. This is going to give him the runway to go castle after the engagement, but he needs to do some damage first. If he doesn't, then he's just basically upgrading mass archers into sofas. Which, spoiler alert, is a very quick way to lose a game. I'm trying to think if Avali realistically can just try to go castle. You can see his hesitation. He's thinking, okay, he built loads of Donzos and Javs. He built more than that. I can't go in with horsemen now. I think Avali at this point in this game, he's looking at what's happened and he's realizing, oh, actually going horsemen, my window to close the game was about 3 minutes ago, and now I'm stuck with a pretty worthless army. The interesting part is that Beasty's prepping Musafadi, anticipating a potential switch up into maybe knights here, right? Which also gives him an active raiding force at the same time. It could be a way of kind of dealing with Jeanne, but I mean, Jeanne's a lightly ranged cavalry unit, right? Donzos is still your best tool. If I had to guess like what this is mainly about, I think it's that Beasty doesn't really have much wood extra to work with right now, adding in all the extra production buildings. So Donzos is something you can at least afford because that's food and gold, right? And food and gold are the things you get passive bundles of as the Malians. What can Avali do? I think he's going to try to hunker down, right? Spearmen are already coming in. The problem with the spears is, like, realistically, you're still dealing with 36 Donzos on the other side, and you have to remember Donzos are better spearmen. They have better health, they have the melee armor, so their effective HP is just naturally higher. And you're an age behind on top of that. Clash now coming in. Avali is trying to get towards castle. Unfortunately for him, Beasty has read this perfectly. He's going to move in for what should be the killing blow here. Jeanne just in full retreat. Not able to stand and fight. Might not have a choice, though. Jabs just sniping down the remaining archers. Sofa's basically uncontestable at this stage. With the import armor, they just aren't dying. This is going to be it. End of the road and end of the group stage for Avali. He cannot close it out with even a remote iota of getting a victory here in game number 2. So it is going to be a 2-0 for Beasty. I don't know if I'm still thinking about that game 1. Maybe I didn't give Avali enough credit. I think we praised him. I maybe just didn't do him enough hype in that final moment with the Bombard snipe. It just felt kind of over. And obviously, I had a little bit of spoiler alert. I'd seen the score. But this one, there was no hype moment to throw his way. Avali, he swung for an early hit. And to be fair, it only grazed. And from there, things looked all too easy for the Malian King.